Welcome to this healing rally for the People Act. We are here today to show our continued support for SR1. Together, we demand that Senate pass the For the People Act to protect our democracy. And today's rally is the second in a series following the John Lewis Vigil that we held on July 17th. After this, there will be more events, so make sure that you get connected and stay engaged. Our deadline was August 16th, but it actually has been moved up to August 12th. And so regardless, there is a lot that our government needs to do. And so we must continue to fight and be informed. So For the People Act is a revolutionary comprehensive bill addressing voting rights and election administration, money and politics, and government transparency, redistricting, and ethics. These are bipartisan issues that every American should support. It would be the boldest democracy reform since the Watergate scandal. HR 1 is a massive overhaul of money and politics, voting, and ethics laws, all to make our democracy more accessible. So Congress must pass the For the People Act, and that is a bold, comprehensive package of democracy reforms, including independent redistricting commissions, citizen-funded elections, closing the revolving door between government and corporate interests, and protecting voters against discrimination. We the people deserve a responsive, accountable government that gives us all a stronger voice and puts our needs ahead of special interests. So this is important to me as a taxpaying citizen. I want to feel more represented in Congress. We shouldn't have to move heaven and earth to pass legislation. But this issue is also important to me as a Black woman. My ancestors have fought and some have died for the right to vote. Many of our ancestors did, actually. And not only do I not want to live in a totalitarian regime, but to ignore this crisis would be to submit to the existential threats that we're facing as human beings. Humanity's survival depends on good leadership that values more than profits and power. We can no longer ignore environmental issues. Climate change is something we must fight if we are to survive. We are already seeing the effects all over the world. 150 homes have burned down in Greece so far, while a town in Canada and a town in California burnt down to the ground entirely. Many parts of the country are already in a drought. Those who love money have taken the opportunity to fight for water futures trading, making California the first state to allow commodity trading on natural resources. Instead of exploiting the problems for financial gain, we need leaders that will fight climate change. MSNBC asked, how do we get people to care about a dying planet? Well, it's not just a dying planet, it's our planet. It's our home. So I will give everyone those resources that they can read the most recent IPCC report that addresses how catastrophic climate change is becoming, and also more information on water futures trading means. And you can also track all the fires that are going on in our world through NASA. And then Common Cause has a really great resource hub for understanding the For the People Act. So now I'm going to introduce one of my co-hosts, Gail Volk of the Albany County League of Women Voters.
Hiya, I'm glad to be a part of this important day and wanted to talk a little bit about the reason why this is important to me. When the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was signed into law by President Johnson, I was a young and idealistic person who assumed that this was going to be the remedy we needed to correct the 15th Amendment. However, witnessing the effects of the Supreme Court 2013 Shelby versus Holder decision, which took away some of those important guardrails that made the Voting Rights Act effective for the last 5 decades, convinced me that I had to get into this fight. I realized that turning my attention away from voting rights, becoming complacent with the status quo, and not continuously monitoring decision makers' decisions, that I was a part of the problem. As the League of Women Voters of Albany County's advocacy director, I have made this my priority and call on all of you to join me by calling on our members of the United States Senate and President Biden to urge them to pass Senate Bill 1 for the People Act. It was numbered number 1 because it is supposed to be the Senate's priorities, but also to pass HR 1, which is the John Lewis Voter Advancement Act, because democracy can't wait and inaction is not an option. Thanks.
Okay, and now for part of our healing rally, I'm going to introduce Charlotte Main, founder of Resonant Heart Musical Healing. She conjures life-affirming, joyful healing experiences by mixing music and awareness practices for therapeutic sound and energy healing. She's a professional violinist and violist, improvisational vocal specialist and songwriter, as well as a lifelong student of embodiment, meditation, ritual, and community building. She graduated cum laude from New England Conservatory and Northwestern University and has worked closely with luminaries like Yo-Yo Ma and Midori. She's been a part of the Hudson Valley Philharmonic, the Hartford Symphony, the Albany Symphony, and the Sarasota Opera Orchestra. She's also my dear friend and mentor, so I am proud to introduce Charlotte Main.
Strings. Recording in progress, good. So thank you all so much. I will play a little bit of original music now. And these are, this first song is a song by me, but the lyrics are by Rainer Maria Rilke, who's one of my favorite poets. And this is his poem, Widening Circles, which I think is just a beautiful vision of life from many different perspectives. So this is that. you. So, I will play another original song. This one is called "Welcome Home," and it's a song. I think of it as a song for your inner child, but just any parts of your. We're all. There's so much to think about, so much to care about in the world today, and so many ways that our energy gets pulled away from us, for better and for worse, of course. And so this is a song to kind of bring all those pieces back into your body and reclaim what belongs to you, so that you have enough energy to do your work and make change. And so I hope this is a soothing and heart-opening song for you. Welcome waiting for you for so long. There is space for you to rest yourself. Welcome home, dearest one, welcome home. I hope you enjoyed that lullaby. I love that Alicia is referring to this as a healing rally, because I think change on a deep systemic level is contingent on so many things, but really also in our own physical and emotional healing as individuals, and so I'm really loving that reference to this event. I'll play a little more Bach on the viola, and maybe take that into an improvisation this time. So I hope you enjoy that. was a couple of movements of Bach. And I guess that takes me to the end of my time. So thank you again so much to Alicia and to everyone that helped organize this event, this rally. And thank you to all of you for showing up. And thank you for your attention and for listening. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of this gathering together.
Thank you, Charlotte. That was really beautiful. Before you go, if you just have a couple minutes, can you maybe tell us what this means to you, voting, and how important it is and your experience with it?
Absolutely, sure. Yes. So I'm deeply, deeply, deeply moved to work on this country is just, I mean, we all know there's issues at every level. Sometimes it's so overwhelming and so frustrating, and we can feel like we don't know where to start. I feel like that sometimes, especially being young and coming up into adulthood, realizing just the extent of what we face together, especially with climate now. So that's something I really care about, and it's really important to me to remember that gathering in community like this, and showing solidarity and reminding each other that we're all here and we're all in this together really, really can make a difference and absolutely can start to gather momentum. And I really believe in the power of the people. And I see this country actually really having the potential to change directions because the people are more powerful than the corporations. I really believe that, and I really am excited to see what can happen within our lifetimes in terms of big systemic change, in terms of racial justice, social justice, and climate justice, so that this world is a just and beautiful place for all that live here in the way that we all know that it can be. So that's what I have to share right now, and I'm just grateful to be a part of this today in some small way, and share in this vision and this work with you all. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really beautiful. And then everyone, I put Charlotte's website in the chat so you can follow up with her. She is on social media and you can connect with her and be mentored by her. So next I'm introducing Nell Stokes, who is the co-founder of the Black Women's Association of Albany and a member of the League of Women Voters. Just bear with me. Hello, okay, we're ready for you. Oh, you need to unmute.
I think I need to unmute too, right? I just did that. Hello, everyone. My name is Nell Stokes, and I'm pleased to be a participant in this Day of Action, Democracy Can't Wait rally. During my lifetime, I have lived in an America that is unjust in the lives of African Americans. The United States Constitution, approved in 1776, counted my ancestors as 3/5 of a person, despite the assertion of the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. The 3/5 clause legalized institutional racism for almost 100 years until the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment of the Constitution defined Black men as equal and given the right to vote. It wasn't until the 19th Amendment was ratified in August 1920 that women were given the right to vote. These are hard-fought rights and privileges that we cannot take for granted. I was raised in Montgomery, Alabama, and lived under the Jim Crow laws that justified the severe punishment, harm, and recrimination of African Americans. The Civil Rights Act was signed into law by President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1964 and was supposed to end the segregation that institutionalized those laws. But as you know, residual effects still linger today. And then there were the restrictions on voting by African Americans in my state. A system was imposed that included a registration application, a lengthy questionnaire, a literacy test, and an oath that needed to be signed and notarized, plus a fee of $5. The actual test was 68 questions that included questions such as a US senator, a US senator elected at the general election in November takes office the following year on what date? Now at 18 years old, how was I supposed to know that if I was never taught that? When the Constitution was approved by the original colonies, how many states had to ratify in order for the oath to take effect? And another question, what words are required by law on all coins and paper money of the United States? Well, I know that now, I didn't know that then. 68 of these type questions, and after 2 tries and $10, I never passed the test, thereby never being able to vote in my home states. Mind you, only African Americans had to go through this process. Relocating to Albany, New York in October 1963 brought a new situation to the voting process. To my surprise, I was able to vote in November of '63 without taking the test, and was even offered a $5 for my vote, which I refused to take. Now in 2021, 58 years later, we are at a crossroads. Currently, there are politicians, including the Supreme Court, that will take away privileges if we are complacent and allow it to happen. As Americans, we need fair districting to keep our communities whole and ensure our communities can thrive for the next 10 years and beyond. We must stay in the fight for justice. The stakes are high. As I speak, our democracy is in peril. So senators, we need your commitment and we need it now. So get to work, put our communities first, and pass H.R. 1, the For the People Act. There are both new and long-standing challenges to our voting rights. During this month, the 56th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, it is not right and just to continue to erect barriers that makes it harder for millions of eligible Americans to vote. We plead with our senators to act expeditiously and sign H.R. 1, the For the People Act. Now more than ever, we need you to stand with us and protect our vote. Thank you for your time and attention. And that's my presentation.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Really appreciate you sharing your perspective with us and giving us that history lesson. It's so amazing to hear from our elders. And it's important to remember everything that you guys went through. And so thank you so much for being with us today. Next, we are going to have Reverend Molly Dahlbaum. And just give me 1 second as I.
Good morning. Can you hear me? I am joining you from the Lincoln Park Pool here in Albany. My name is Molly Dahlbaum. I am a pastor and a youth director at First Presbyterian Church in Albany at State and Willett. And I am wanting to talk to you specifically on behalf of my kids, my 2 kids who are in the pool, who are 6 and 8 years old. And on behalf of my youth and the youth of Albany, that we have to act now in order to preserve democracy for the future generations. If you're following the climate act that just the climate report that just came out yesterday, this is critical time. We have to act now, and we have to act decisively so that we can have a habitat, an earth that's fit for humans to live on into the next 100 years. For these children who are learning to swim out there, we want to have tolerable temperatures so they can live on this planet. And we're not going to be able to do that with the way that our government is working right now. I am part of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. And we are organizing in over 40 states and with many partner organizations. And we just wrapped up a season of moral direct action in which we are calling for the end to the filibuster, to fully restore the 1965 Voting Rights Act, to enact all parts of the For the People Act, which my sister was just commenting about, to raise the minimum wage federally to $15 an hour immediately, and to protect all 11 million immigrants in this country who are undocumented. Why is it important to pass the filibuster? The filibuster is not a constitutional part of our democracy, it's a practice. And we know that when you have practices such as counting people as 3/5 of a person, such as denying women the right to vote, such as policies that are harming other people, such as having to take a test to vote, or other things that block democracy and block the right to vote for every person, then we need to let those policies, those practices go. It isn't constitutional, it's not necessary. We say right now we have an evenly split Senate, so Vice President Harris could be the tying vote, the 51 votes needed for many of these legislations, for the People Act, for fully restoring our voting rights, for passing immigration reform that is humane and just, for moving swiftly and boldly on climate change. And if 51 votes were used in the last administration to put several judges, including Supreme Court judges, in for life terms, and they have also been chipping away at voting rights with these judges. And if 51 votes can be used for that, then 51 votes can surely be used to end the filibuster, so we can get to work and we can do the work for the people. I want to leave you, if you're interested in the work that we are doing, organizing with the Poor People's Campaign, you can go to www.poorpeoplescampaign.org, or you can go to nyspppc.org for New York State Poor People's Campaign. And I want to leave you with this song that my friend Lou Aya, who is from the Peace Poets down in Harlem, wrote for this moment. And you can sing along with me if you like. So it goes, "We the people are for the people, and for the people act. We the people are for the people, and for the people act." Your turn. We the people are for the people, and for the people act. We the people are for the people. Now will you have our backs? This is to our senators. We the people are for the people. Now will you have our back? Your turn. We the people are for the people. Now will you have our back? Now Second part, we won't ever let go of that hard-won freedom to vote. And the freedom was hard-won. People had stood in front of water cannons, put their bodies in front of dogs, put their bodies in front of tear gas, marched. We were led by children marching in the civil rights movement. And we must continue because that right to vote was hard won, and we will never let it go. We will never let go of that hard won freedom to vote. We won't ever let go of that hard won freedom to vote. Let's sing it. We the people are for the people and for the people act. We the people are for the people, now will you have our back? We the people are for the people and for the people act. We the people are for the people, now will you have our back? We won't ever let go of that hard won freedom to vote. We won't ever let go in that hard won freedom to vote. We the people are for the people are for the people act. Again, we the people are for the people and for the people act. That is the act that was penned by John Lewis. So in his memory, and the memory of so many that we carry with us today who have fought for rights and whose legacy we are continuing to fight in the movement for the People Act. And you can sing that to your senator. Call up Schumer, call up Gillibrand, and sing that to them. Say, we need you to end the filibuster. We need you to pass the For the People Act. Thank you so much. It's great to be with you here today.
Thank you for your kind words, and it was nice to see you out in the sunshine. Very, very good vision of fighting for your kids. So yes, it is the next generation that more than anything is going to be left with the decisions or lack thereof that we make today. So it's another reason why this is really important. Next, we are going to have April Land speak. And April Land is from the Capital Area Urban League. One moment. And I believe you're ready to go.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you, Gail. Hello, I'm April Land, interim CEO of the Capital Area Urban League, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that covers Montgomery, Rensselaer, Saratoga, Schenectady, and Albany counties in upstate New York. For many of us, it has always been difficult to fully participate in a tight and unfair political landscape. Advancing our earth, our wellness and health, our bodies and identities, our communities, our economic well-being, our education system. I'm sure you all understand the list could go on. Advancing all of this has become increasingly challenged and faced with opposition. How might we maintain the power to decide what next? How might we, what's next for the COVID response and truly propelling health and wellness? What next for environmental justice, sustainable agriculture, food deserts, the widening of the global digital divide? What next for education and economic development in rural, peri-urban, and urban communities? Redistricting, a process that holds self-evident rights for everyone and only comes around every 10 years, has a place for all of us at the meeting and challenges us to focus on the power we build in organizing around our common issues. The Capital Area Urban League is a founding member of the One Person, One Vote Coalition and partnered with Princeton University's representable.org, a free map drawing tool that helps folks to use the tool to draw their own community of interest map and inform how the New York Independent Redistricting Commission draws our voting districts. Defining your community and contributing a community of interest map to the New York Independent Redistricting Commission inserts your voice in the fight for fair voting districts that respect the concerns of communities. Visit the Capital Area Urban League's website. I believe it's in the chat as well, urbanleague3v.com. Visit our website, especially if you need help with drawing and submitting your map to the Independent Redistricting Commission. What better way to advance a political landscape that fosters true representation than for you and your neighbors to get together, sit at your kitchen tables, and on a map of New York, pinpoint the issues and concerns that your community faces every day. Let's get together and do this, submit our maps, and ensure true representation in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, April. Next, we're going to have our co-host, Bill.
Thanks. And I'm checking in just to let you know that unfortunately, Paul Stewart is unable to Paul is a co-founder with Mary Elizabeth Stewart of the Underground Railroad Education Center. And I put the website in the chat because they are currently doing FreedomCon online this year and have a wonderful lineup of different speakers, and that they are an amazing place that we should all visit and support. And we will look forward to having them join us at a future time. But I felt it was really important that they be present, and you should know that they are here and they exist, and their important work needs to be supported. Okay, Alicia, back to you.
Okay, thank you. And yes, the Underground Railroad is an amazing organization. Paul Stewart is a really amazing advocate and activist. So I highly suggest that you check out their website. And if you have a chance and you're local, to check out their building. There's a lot of information you can find there. Reverend Molly just dropped the Poor People's Campaign website also into the chat. So that is another organization I highly recommend. They do a lot of great activism. They're a national organization, and they're really incredible. So we are going to next move on to Larry Fine is going to say a few words. One moment.
Ready?
And then you're all set, Larry.
Okay. Thank you, Alicia, for allowing me to speak. Hello, everybody. We're here to make things right for justice. It cannot wait any longer. A man torturing and then killing a man in front of the world and getting less than 25 years in prison is not justice. And a president abusing women, lying to the world, and is responsible for the needless suffering and death of thousands of people and is allowed to be free. But a man waits in line 6 hours to vote in a primary, and on a technicality is threatened with 25 years in prison for voter fraud. This is not justice. We're here today to change election laws for the better. We are patriots. I think it is appropriate in meetings like this that we declare our commitment and pledge our allegiance to each other. The pledge has changed a few times, and I'm changing it again. Alicia, is it possible to unmute everybody?
Yeah, let me try. Okay, many are unmuted.
Okay. So I'm here to change the pledge again to make it more meaningful to us. Thanks for bearing with me. I'll sing the first phrase of the pledge, then me and the women will repeat it, and then all of us will repeat it. Then together we'll continue slowly until I stop you at one nation. And then if you will, repeat after me. Okay, ready?
Ready.
All right. Let me get the words here so I don't mess up.
Mother Nature to throw at us.
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Now everybody, I pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
There we go. Okay, together, of the United States of America.
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
stands, one nation.
Stop. Now you repeat after me. One nation, under God, for freedom, for justice, for all. For freedom, for justice, for all. Okay, thank you. You know, in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, the word republic is mentioned many times. We're supposed to be a republic. The base word of republic is public, which means all of us.
Amen.
I believe all citizens should be required to vote.
Yes.
All of us are required to pay taxes.
Yes.
So the government can function.
Yes.
All of us are supposed to obey laws. So society can be civil. And I think all of us should be required to vote so we become a republic. We're not a republic now. Thank you all for your work to pass S1 for the People Act. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. That was really awesome. I'm grateful for everyone that is here to showcase how important this is. So next, I'm going to be moving on. We're jumping around a little bit from our schedule just based on who's here and not having technical issues. So I am going to move on to the Honorable Merton Simpson. So one moment. All right, and you can proceed.
All right. In my 2-minute, commentary, I just have to say, red alert. I mean, we are not in normal times. We have to pull out all the stops. I don't know what the problem is with our Democratic leadership. My theory of the case is Biden, Pelosi, and Schumer are stuck in muscular memory and institutional framework that no longer exists. I remember when Pelosi said that we shouldn't go for impeachment because it would be too divisive. I was born in Charleston, South Carolina. We've been divided since before the Civil War. We cannot continue this, Marquis of Queensberry rules against people who are burning the rule book. We got to get rid of this filibuster. We have to do a carve out. We cannot out-organize the Republican juggernaut. The Supreme Court denied over 50 federal and Supreme Court attempts at stopping the steal. But then they make a decision that they have to uphold the fraud in Arizona in order to protect against fraud. I never thought the Supreme Court would go that low. So we can't depend on them on the bottom line. They've been good in not hearing false claims about election fraud. But then when it comes to actually dealing with people who are using ultraviolet light to determine whether there's bamboo in ballots, and absurdity that Rod Serling couldn't even understand, we are on our own. And we can't continue this moderate kind of approach of trying to pretend that we want to have a bipartisan relationship. If we do not maintain the Senate and Congress next year, our democracy is over. S1 and HR1 are critical for the survival of our democracy. People who are actually trying to stop insurrectionists on January 6th, who are actually literally scared to death, pull away and are so politically corrupted, are so under the spell of the Donald Trump cult, that they would argue that, in contradiction to the video that we see with our own eyes, that you could mistake January 6th for just normal tourists. This is a level of insanity that we have never seen before. And so our resolve to get through these important pieces of legislation are critical, existential, and the likes of which we will not survive if we don't maintain the Congress next year. It's all over. We're not coming back. If Donald Trump would have died today, Trumpism is unleashed. You got people who are armed, who want civil war, who are so crazy that people who have had actually COVID twice are still reflecting that they don't want to take the vaccine. I've actually seen a woman in the hospital say, I don't know if the vaccine is 100% effective. Well, she's 100% sick. We have never had this level of mass insanity in my lifetime, and I'm about 3 years from being 70 years old. I urge all our elected officials to use all of our resources. I personally am contemplating a proclamation in the Albany County Legislature to appeal to our elected officials at the state and national level to impress in the highest terms that our leadership in Washington has to take whatever means necessary to preserve our democracy. These two important pieces of legislation are critical to that effort, and I urge us to use all our resources to make this happen. And I'll cede the rest of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson.
You're
Everything
welcome.
you said is absolutely true. This is such an important time right now. We are in a make it or break it moment for democracy. If we lose the House or the Senate, I don't know how we can come back from this. We have to do what we can do right now. It's very important if you could write your senators, call them, show up, write President Biden. We need them to push really hard for this. Failure is not an option. We cannot compromise. We need them to do their jobs, and they should not be going on break until it's done. So next, I am going to have Miss Ivy speak, and Beverly is from the NAACP of the Capital Region.
Hi, good afternoon, or yes, I'm Beverly Ivy, and I represent the Albany branch of the NAACP. I am both the branch secretary and I chair the civic engagement. And I came in when I was hearing Mr. Simpson speak. I can't echo his sentiments any more clearly than what I heard. Yes, as NAACP, you know, we are nonpartisan, so we cannot support, you know, political candidate, but we have values such as democracy and voting and making sure our constituencies know the importance of voting, being registered, and the utmost of education. And yes, we are seeing what's going on in Florida and Texas and other places, but don't be mistaken that that's not happening here in New York. Up in the Rensselaer County, how they're trying to move the voting or how you can do early voting. There's been some conversation there. And then the NAACP Troy branch has been fighting that fight so that people can get to the ballot and get make it be accessible. So yes, the voting of the John Lewis bill is paramount. We have to get our people calling, as you said, they have to call, they have to write. Even if our senators are in favor, don't let them sleep on it. Tell them we support you. We thank you for your support. Let them know that you are behind them in this effort. We also have to, as the NAACP, when we do our civic engagement, we have to educate our people, our community, the importance of the local election, that we just can't vote in November for the presidency and right by hands and that we're done. Because we're seeing this on the local level, to quote Tip O'Neill, all politics is local. And that's where the fight is. And that's where we have to do our education. We do that through forums and informational dialogue to our constituencies. So again, we're there, we're on the forefront, we're on the battlefield, and that's NAACP, formed in 1909. And we are there and we will continue to be there and be a support to everybody that is on the call. And if you need any more information about the NAACP, you can, you know, contact me and we'll be in tandem for sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Like you said, this is really important. We really need our senators and our representatives to step up and to listen to us. We're here, we're calling for them to do the right thing, to pass this legislation. It is bipartisan in terms of people who are Democrat and Republican all over the country we're asking for election reform. I think that's one thing that we can all agree on. Now, maybe that's a starting point for how left and right people, not representatives, can find a mutual talking point, although of course it has to be rooted in reality. And we're not asking to relitigate the 2020 election, but we do need election reform. We do need the changes that the For the People Act is demanding. And so that now that we have some new people that are here, I'm just gonna go back through some of our initial slides. And so while I'm doing that, I am just going to ask everyone to consider writing down the number, writing down the email address or the website so that you can contact your representatives and let them know how important this issue is to you. So again, this was a healing rally, which is why we had some live music in the beginning. We wanted to do something a little bit different. I don't think we're going to win this fight trying to be like the right. We're different and we need to be ourselves and lean into what our strengths are. So we are here today to just show our continued support for HR1, SR1, and we are not asking, we are demanding that the Senate pass the For the People Act to protect our democracy. So today's rally is the second in a series. There's going to be more events that you can be a part of in the future. So stay connected, stay engaged. There, as exhausting as this can seem and as overwhelming as this is, we don't really have time to rest. The census information is supposed to be released on August 12th now instead of August 16th. And regardless of whether or not we can miraculously get this passed before then, the fight doesn't stop there. We are going to have to continue to stay on top of our representatives at every level. We need to be involved in what's going on locally in our county, what's going on statewide, and what's going on nationally. So the For the People Act is really revolutionary. It's the most comprehensive election reform that we've seen since the Watergate. And so these are bipartisan issues. We want to have voting rights addressed, election administration addressed. We want to get money out of politics, corporate money, and we want redistricting to be fair and transparent. We do not want our representatives choosing their voters. The voters are supposed to choose the representatives. And so we are asking for ethic laws to be enforced. And we want this reform package so that we can have independent redistricting commissions that are going to oversee redistricting, that it's fair. We want citizen-funded elections so that we can have people who are wanting to go into politics for the right reasons, and that more people have access to running a campaign than just being born wealthy. We want to stop the revolving door between government and corporate interests, and we want to protect voters against discrimination. So we believe that American people deserve a responsive, accountable government that gives us all a stronger voice and puts our needs ahead of special interest. And this is something that is so important. There are so many causes right now that we want to advocate for. Climate change is one of the most important, and it's very important to me. And of course, everything, kind of falls along class and racial lines. So as we're seeing the effects of climate change, those are going to hurt the poor, and those are going to hurt people of color more likely, harder than it's going to hurt other people. But there is no planet B, right? So we need to work as much as we can to pass legislation and policy that is going to start treating this planet better. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our next speaker. We have Patricia. I'm not going to try to say your last name because I don't want to mispronounce it, but just give me 1 second as we're transitioning. All right, and then you're all set.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this important event. My name is Patricia Sibilia, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Albany County. I'm here today to talk in support of Congress passing the For the People Act, which passed as HR1 in the House of Representatives, but now it's sitting with the US Senate as S1. The legislation really has a very broad set of reforms. First, it looks to restore what we already had: the federal pre-clearance of any voting law changes that were outlined as part of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. This this pre-clearance section was there to address particular states and localities that had a history of voter discrimination. This section was struck down by the Supreme Court in 2013 in their Selby v. Holder decision. And we then saw closing of polling places predominantly in minority location, cuts to early voting, purges of voter rolls, and the imposition of stricter voter ID laws, all to make it harder for minorities to vote. But it also addresses many other needed voting reforms, such as restoring voting rights to felons who may have completed their debt to society. Something that in 2018, 64% of the people of Florida decided on using their voices at the polls to support. But then their state legislature countered by stipulating they must pay court fees and fines to stop them, and it stopped many of them from voting in our last election. Can you say poll tax here? It also looks to address ethics and campaign finance reforms. Anyone who has seen the documentary Dark Money, and if you haven't, I definitely recommend it. It focused in large part on what happened in Montana, where the corporate money of the Anaconda Copper Mining Company resulted in an environmental catastrophe in Butte, and that is still going on. And we can all, after seeing this film, understand the need for this legislation. The Federal Elections Commission, which is supposed to be an independent regulatory agency to enforce campaign finance law, generally does not function due to politics. This must be changed to prevent big money from deciding our fates instead of us, the people, making those decisions. And while we're talking money, I'm a particular fan of the legislation requiring the president and vice president and anyone running for those offices to publicly disclose their prior 10 years income tax returns. It would also eliminate the use of taxpayer money from members of Congress to settle their employment discrimination claims against them. We pay for that now, not them. And then there's the portion of the legislation that would like to end gerrymandering by requiring states to have independent redistricting commissions to draw the district lines with clear criteria on how to do that. A particular favorite of mine. When you look at how the Republicans launched in 2010 their red map efforts, which targeted particular states to turn their legislatures red, so the GOP would be in control of drawing the congressional district maps. You see that we're back to money into politics, but the outcome for Obama's midterm elections was drastically turning many states from blue to red. That's what can happen with redistricting, and it lasts for a decade. I've only touched on some of what this legislation tries to address. It's expansive and much needed. But polls have also shown that American voters broadly support the legislation. It found that the argument that the bill stops billionaires from buying elections is particularly resonant with the public, and conservatives should avoid publicly debating that point. We need to keep fighting for reforms so people can truly have a say in their government. I thank you for your time today in speaking on this.
Thank you. Yeah, someone in the chat mentioned that Governor Cuomo just resigned. So that's some really crazy developments that are happening. Again, thank you so much, Patricia, for your words. We're all just echoing the same thing, but it can't be said enough how important it is that we have fair and independent elections. Redistricting right now, the GOP is set to at least pick up the House without having to do anything other than redistrict, which means that more and more power is going to shift to the South. And these are states where they have less population than a lot of the blue states. And so what we're seeing is essentially the end of American democracy. And, in order to fight that, it's going to be best if we do that before the census data. So we really need our representatives to pass the For the People Act, and we need them to do that now. So as we continue on with our day here, I ask you in the audience to think about what is the next thing that you can do to get in contact with your representatives. You will post a number that you can call. I know we have people here that are from all over, and so that number will connect you with the representatives that are to you personally. And we just need to stay on top of them and get them to pass this act. So next we are going to have the Honorable William Reinhardt speak. And so just one moment as we're transitioning. And then I believe you're all ready to go, sir.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. And I want to compliment everyone who put this event together. I can't help but think about how the three previous speakers, Merton, Alicia, and Patricia, they all said points that for me are very important. So we are in many ways very like-minded, all of us on this call, but not always exactly the same. And that's kind of the way politics is. As an elected official in Albany County, I see a lot of different perspectives on a lot of different issues. Sometimes it's fascinating to me how people reach their decisions on various things, including the issue of the resignation of our governor. But what I wanted to comment on today relating to the issue at hand is, for those of you who know me, climate and the environment has always been a fundamental issue for me ever since I got involved in electoral politics after my retirement from the New York Energy Authority. If you'd asked me maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said getting big money out of politics was the #1 issue. And then as the climate emergency became more and more clear, my political focus has really been on that as the #1 issue. But I have to say that now, the issues we are talking about now are the #1 issue for me. Good climate, environmental justice, all of the other issues will not be resolved if we cannot address voter suppression and the essentially the threat to democracy that is posed right now by Republicans across this country. You know, history doesn't always repeat itself, and it never repeats itself exactly the same. But I feel as though, to use a climate reference, we are at a tipping point, not only with climate, as the IPCC report stated yesterday, with the Gulf Stream and other issues that are threatening to collapse environmentally. We're at a tipping point in terms of our democracy. I truly believe that if we don't get this bill passed, both of the bills that are being discussed here, the For the People Act as well as the John Lewis initiative, we are probably going to see increased voter suppression, probably the loss of the House and or the Senate. And the Republicans have proven over the last 4 years that all they care about is power. They have no principles left. The Democratic Party is the only party, the major party, that seems to have a certain moral compass and certain principles, even though I will argue some of that could be improved too. But what we're talking about today is the #1 biggest issue. And I do want to comment, though, just on this issue of the resignation of the governor. I've read some interesting discussion about what this could mean for state policy. And one area where I think we should look at this as a positive development is in terms of environmental policy and climate policy. I really think that we have an opportunity now to really make progress on implementing the goals and the objectives of the climate bills that we have passed with more, and I hope we can address environmental justice. But frankly, even whatever we do in New York, if it's great, fine. But if we can't fix the problems at the national level, which is really our focus today, on this call. What we do in New York, yes, we can be a beacon of doing government the good way and the right way and addressing climate, but really we have to get the ship of the US government turned around in the right direction, and we cannot do that unless we address all of these issues that are right now being undermined by the Republicans, and as Mert said, by the Supreme Court. That decision they made in 2013 was a terrible decision, and it's led to all of these problems that we have now. So I've used up my time. I appreciate all the effort that everyone is putting into this issue, and Mert and I will continue to do what we can in the county legislature, along with others who I think may be on this call, to give us clean government in Albany County and a green environment and a green economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to just take a moment to thank all of the Albany County legislators that we have on this call. We're going to hear from one more in a moment, but I just wanted to share a personal story since we have a little extra time. I was hoping today that my cousin was going to be able to speak. She is an incredible woman that I was just connected to recently through the Ancestry.com app, and she is connected through my grandfather's side. She is someone who grew up in a rural town in Pennsylvania, and she found out when her school was being desegregated that her bus driver that she had known for years was part of the KKK and was a grand wizard. And so he refused to bring the Black children to the white school. And so that hurt their ability to desegregate in that area. And I just wanted to share that story because I think there are a lot of times where we question why are things happening the way that they are. And we don't always know who is secretly against the progress that we're trying to make. And so there are people out there that, you know, aren't very forward with their viewpoints, but maybe working against the progress that we are striving towards. So in her case, she grew up in that area, stayed in that area, and has had to work with and navigate office politics with other people that were part of the KKK. And one of the philosophers that I listen to right now, his name is Dr. Ritchie, and he has a YouTube channel, and he talks about how there's a difference between white nationalism and white supremacy. And so white nationalism is white supremacy legislated. And so we do have officials right now that are afraid of the power and the voice of people of color and basically just dissidents, because a lot of these voter suppression laws are not just tackling people of color, but they're also affecting students like Charlotte and people who are younger and people who are poor and maybe don't have an area that has an effective post office or don't have access to polling booths. So there's a lot of ways that people will be affected by some of these proposals that are being put out, in addition to people who are disabled and maybe have always had trouble voting might be affected. And so these are really important that we get the For the People Act and the John Lewis Act passed so that we can defend the right to vote for all these people. And Martin Luther King Jr. had a really great quote that always stands out to me, which is, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so if we don't protect the right to vote for the most vulnerable, we are letting our own rights be chipped away at, because it may be their right to vote today, but it may be our right to vote tomorrow. So I just wanted to add that. And now I'm very proud to announce that we are going to have the Honorable Dustin Reedy speak. And so one moment for our transition here. You're on.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Alicia. So excited to join you all this afternoon, and it's a little hard to follow so many good speakers and folks that just went before me and throughout. I'm proud to join with my colleagues Bill and Mert, and so I really just want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who is pushing on the For the People Act on this issue. Because the fact is, we wouldn't be doing this today. These bills would not have any chance of being passed if it wasn't for the activists that are involved every day with actions like this in keeping their voices loud, keeping them up, pushing and helping raise the voices of elected officials like myself from the local level all the way up to the federal level. And I'm happy to see activists I haven't met yet. I'm happy to see activists that I've known for quite a while. I see some friends from Progressive Schenectady, from Bethlehem Indivisible, from other Capital District Indivisible groups. I was just thinking that it was about 4.5 years ago when the Indivisible movement started, and when I think many of us, became activists or reignited our activism in politics to fight back against the Trump administration. We fought back, here in New York. In the 19th Congressional District, I was involved with many of you in replacing and repealing John Faso and helping elect Antonio Delgado. And in 2018, when we flipped Congress, when we flipped the state Senate here in New York, those were big victories. But the activists, you never let up, you never stopped. It was a long, hard fight to make sure we elected Joe Biden president, to make sure we retained our House majority, and to provide, the smallest of majority in the Senate. And with 4.5 years, I think on this current, wave of activism, you've never let up and stopped. And I believe you haven't stopped in part because we know too well that the folks that would suppress the right to vote, that would do everything in their power to entrench a small minority of voters, corporations and oligarchs, they haven't given up either. And they will never have the people power that we have, but they do have billions of dollars. And some archaic parts of our Constitution on their side, and they have other parts of our Constitution that were never meant to be on their side. The filibuster, we all know it's not in the Constitution, it's not there for a reason. It was never intended to happen, and yet it still stands there today. The fact is, the right to vote is the most fundamental right that we have here in America and that we have as citizens. One person, one vote. That act, it is a right, it is not a privilege. The ability to vote should be easy, it should be accessible, it should be the easiest thing we have access to in this country to make our voices heard at the ballot box. The folks that are working so hard to suppress that right, they know how fundamental and important it is. Is the reason why there's hundreds of voter suppression bills being proposed. And it's why they're fighting so hard to retain the filibuster and make sure the For the People Act does not get passed. And it's why it is so important to make sure that happens. Again, I want to thank everyone, behind this. And I know Alicia asked when she was speaking a few moments ago that, we need to figure out what we're doing from here. And I'm happy to say that with my county legislature colleagues, we signed a proclamation this week supporting the For the People Act, calling on Senator Gillibrand and Schumer here in New York to do everything in their power to make sure it gets passed. I was speaking to some of the activists yesterday about finding a time and the right place to present this proclamation next week. And as soon as we have that set, I'll be letting Alicia know and some of the organizers I know, and hopefully they'll let all of you know. And whoever can come down would be very welcome and would hope you could join us. We'll keep pushing. I'll keep pushing, and I'll keep following and being so grateful for the leadership you're showing on this. And I'll just close with a quote that I've always found inspirational. It's a paraphrase from Langston Hughes' poem, Let America Be America Again, where he writes, "Let America be America again, the land that never has been yet and yet must be. Securing the right to vote. It is something that we have yet to do here in America. It is fundamental to realizing the promise that was written in the Declaration of Independence, the promise and the right that is written into our Constitution and into our very foundation, and what America is supposed to be, what America must be, what America is not yet. But with your activism, your energy, your help, passing the For the People Act is a major, major step to realizing that. And again, thank you for having me on. Thank you for organizing and driving this activism. I'm so proud and happy to be a small part of helping raise the voices here and adding my voice to everyone's here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is so exciting. It's so great to have Albany County supporting our activism and work. And so yes, continue to call your senators and your representatives. We do have one more person, so I'm going to transition over to the Honorable Sam Fine. So it'll be one moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I just want to echo what my colleague Dustin said. And, the right to vote is really fundamental right. That is the way that we can impact everything else in our society. Everything else that we want to change is through voting and through electing people to office and through staying engaged. And that's why it's so fundamental. And I think, when you see voter suppression tactics throughout the country, it reminds us of what happened before the civil rights movement, from the end of slavery through before the Civil Rights Bill. That's what Southern states did to disenfranchise Black voters, so that they could keep a system of white supremacy and keep people out of the political process and out of society and out of the economic prosperity and out of all elements of society. And that's really what we're at risk of going back towards, is seeing a system of exclusion. And that's really why they're doing this, is because they know they can't win based on the principles. They're worried they can't make the arguments that will make people vote for them. And so instead they are trying to push people out of the political process so that they can push for the policies that they want and push for a society that they want in an undemocratic way. So that's why it's so important that we pass this legislation. We can't go backwards. I think reminds me of the notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg said something when the Supreme Court repealed a lot of the Voting Rights Act. She said something along the lines of, it's like, I'm going to get it slightly wrong, but it's like taking an umbrella. It's like getting rid of your umbrella when it's raining because you're not getting wet. Well, the only reason that we had fair voting laws in a lot of Southern states were because these protections existed. So getting rid of these protections was a big mistake and did a lot of harm. So we need to pass the For the People Act. And we have to recognize up here as well, we got to get people out to vote. I know that the League of Women Voters and a lot of people here are doing good work. We have to get people out to vote and give people a reason to vote here, because while we have much stronger voting protections and more access to voting, a lot of people have lost hope in the system and they don't believe that they're part of the process. And we have to give people a reason to vote and expand opportunity. And it's important to note, we didn't have good access to voting until a few years ago in New York. We've had some of the lowest voter turnouts in the state for years. We didn't have early voting until recently. We still don't, we have a temporary mail voting process, but for COVID, but we have to make that permanent. We had primary elections until recently where the polls didn't open till noon. So we have come a long ways, but we have a lot more ways to come in New York. We have to always be at the forefront of expanding opportunities. So I just want to, end by thanking everyone for doing what you're doing. This is such an important fight that's going to make the difference to ensure that we have a real democratic process in this country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fine, and really appreciated your words. I'm just going to share my screen again, just to reiterate. So we are here because we love democracy and we love America, and pointing out that there are issues that need to be addressed isn't out of hatred of this country, but is out of love of this country. And for me, as a Christian, I think of it how the Bible talks about how correction is an act of love to make us better people. So we want America to be what it promised it would be, which is that all people are going to be created equal. Originally, that was just meant for white owning property men, but now that's been expanded to include all of us. And like Sam said, we cannot go backwards. We need to go forwards. And it's not just about today, but it's also the world that we're going to be leaving to the next generation, both with what options they have in their country. A lot of countries are becoming more and more authoritarian, but it's also, about climate change, which we can't do what we need to do to address some of these other crises until we safeguard our democracy and our right to vote. So this pretty much brings an end to our virtual rally. I want to say thank you to all our guests and speakers. Thank you, Charlotte, for your beautiful music. Hopefully people were at least a little bit healed or transformed. I've seen her live and it's an incredible experience. I want to thank our community and faith leaders, Reverend Molly Dahlbaum. Thank you, Nell Stokes. Thank you, April Land, Paul Stewart. Thank you, Beverly Ivy. Thank you to our Albany County legislators, the Honorable Mert Simpson, the Honorable Bill Reinhardt, Honorable Sam Fine, Honorable Dustin Reedy. Thank you to Larry Fine and Patricia Silva, the president of the League of Women Voters. I want to thank Gail, who co-organized this rally with me, along with Laura Babulis, who's off camera and also assisted in getting this something that happened, and to Ant and to Julian, who you also can't see, but helped ensure that this went off without a hitch. And so just to reiterate again, please call your representatives, please write to them. This number will connect you to whoever your representative is in your area. And then also please write the White House. We need President Biden to not just rely on activists to rally out the vote and get people to vote, but we need him and the people that we elected to government to do whatever they can, do everything they can. So we now have about 4 more minutes. So I'd like to hear from the audience if anyone would like to speak, and what is the next thing that you're going to do to make sure that we get the For the People Act passed and to safeguard our future elections. So if anyone feels comfortable sharing, please unmute yourselves.
I just want to make sure that we also are talking about the H1, the John Lewis Voter Advancement Act, which is going to be really critical in terms of all of these state legislatures that are trying to suppress voting that is happening all over the country, and that the Voter Advancement Act is really, really critical too. So let's just make sure that we're calling, asking about the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voter Advancement Act. And I want to thank everybody who's been the stalwarts on this, especially Alyssa, who I don't think has slept in weeks for all the organizing she's doing. So thanks everybody for showing up.
Yep, and this pretty much concludes our event. If anyone else would like to say something, now would be the time. I did go ahead and put several links in the chat. You'll also receive a follow-up email from the Coalition for American Democracy. And again, I really appreciate everyone taking time out of their days to be with us. Like Charlotte said earlier on, we do have power. That power is our strength in numbers. And so we need to make sure that we are staying engaged, staying empowered, and that we don't give up. So please, everyone, leave here thinking that you have the ability to make a difference, because we do. And this is not a fight that we can lose. So let's get out there and contact our representatives and make sure that they pass these really important pieces of legislation. All right, if no one has any questions, I'm going to end our call today. You can stay in contact with me. You can email me, abacon@albany.edu. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much.